I'm going to say this right now. Aside from Seizure and possibly The Hand, this is the worst film Oliver Stone has ever made. This is like if he had watched Nixon flop at the box office and then decide to not give a crap about making a compelling story. If JFK is the example where Stone's touches to a film work best, U-Turn is mirror image. Everything goes wrong here. The dark conspiracy is reduced to a game of musical chairs, the blending of genres makes for a jarring atmosphere, the roles are filled with famous people but contain almost no character, and the story is completely laughable. Let's just get this one's plot out of the way. A drifter named Bobby is on his way to settle some old debts to a bunch of gangsters. Bobby's already lost 2 of his fingers because of the debt, and he wants to get this trouble over with as soon as he can. Unfortunately, when he hits a small hick town in Arizona, everything imaginable goes wrong. First his car breaks down, then he loses all his money, then he gets harassed by the townspeople, then his car needs more repairs that cost more money, then Bobby gets involved in a triangle of war between this rich old man and his attractive young wife. Then they each pay him to kill the other one. Then the repairman demands his money or else refuses to return the car, and then he has to— You know what? This plot is just as repetitive and irritating written down as it was to see on the screen. As you can tell, I have a lot of bones to pick with this film. For starters, it was the ultimate signal that Stone's golden age was over, and from here on in, his movies would never be the same. A big reason for that being that U-Turn was also the last film that Stone has ever worked with Robert Richardson on. Richardson, for anyone who doesn't know who this guy is one of the greatest cinematographers of our time. He's worked extensively with Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino, providing some of their best-looking movies. But he's most famous for his long collaboration with Oliver Stone. They first worked together on Salvador and Platoon, and they both got their big career jumps working together. Even though they had a volatile relationship at times, their friendship endured, and they both worked hard to make Stone's golden age as good as it was. And to think that this is the last film they've done together, that's just a sad way to end it, I'd say. But what really bugs me about U-Turn is that it had everything going for it. This was a $19 million movie with a slew of movie legends working on it. It could have chosen any story it wanted. It had Oliver Stone in the director's chair. It had Robert Richardson as the cinematographer. It starred Sean Penn and Nick Nolte. It even had Ennio Morricone providing the soundtrack. Quentin Tarantino would have given his right hand for this setup. How could this film not become great? Personally, I would point to the laughable script that Mr. Red Tails John Ridley wrote for the film, which was apparently based on a book that he also wrote. Now, in all fairness to Ridley, the script was co-written by Oliver Stone and one of his longtime collaborators, Richard Rutowski, but that makes the failure of this script all the more pronounced, not to mention the performances. I'll say it right now, the union of Oliver Stone and Sean Penn, 2 of the most outspoken and controversial figures in Hollywood, it should have led to either the greatest movie of both their careers, or, as it actually turned out, a failure. I'm not saying Sean Penn didn't try, though. This is the most insane performance of his career. I will always remember him foaming at the mouth as he rages at Billy Bob Thornton's character at the auto repair shop. I'm surprised Penn didn't burst blood vessels every time he filmed some of those scenes. His energy level throughout this performance is astounding. He really put his all into it. The energy of both Penn and Stone should have made this movie amazing, and frankly, it almost did. I've said before, I can appreciate hyperbole on occasion, such as when, say, Nicolas Cage flips out in Vampire's Kiss, or when Willem Dafoe played Jesus Christ, or when Kenneth Branagh played Dr. Frankenstein. I can certainly be entertained and impressed by how intense Sean Penn was in this film. but even he can't carry a bad movie and make it good. Now, I'll point out the obvious flaw in the cast right here. Jennifer Lopez. I'm sorry, but I just don't like her acting. And I'm sure many people would agree with me, considering she went on to become part of Geely, one of the worst film fiascos in recent memory. And this is no better, as one can clearly see based on any part of her role in this film. You know, something I've noticed about Oliver Stone, looking back at all his movies, he seems especially hit or miss with the actresses that he directs. And U-Turn contains not only one, but two examples of things going horribly wrong in that category. Yes, just in case you thought Lopez was the only bad actress here, we also get a truly grating performance by Claire Danes, almost by accident. Seriously, she accomplishes nothing in the film and seems to have just happened to be in town when the film was shooting. She only serves to motivate her insanely jealous boyfriend to pick a fight with Sean Penn's character multiple times throughout the movie. And who plays the boyfriend, you might ask? Joaquin Phoenix, who I think is a great actor, but this is hands down awful. The boyfriend has no personality in the film, he is completely uninteresting and irritating, and he literally chews the scenery. We also get a performance by Powers Booth as the town sheriff, and while he does initially start out as interestingly subdued and quiet, his last scene in the film has him unconvincingly foaming and raging just like everyone else by that point. In fact, the only supporting actor that manages to give a performance that I actually really liked was Billy Bob Thornton as the car repairman. He's actually an interesting character. He continually uses his position to exploit Sean Penn's character, all the while innocently maintaining that he's doing his job by the books. Thornton clearly has a lot of fun with this role, and it really says something when this dirty, weird-looking hick is the straight man to Sean Penn's furious rants. But yeah, I've already said so much about the awful performances and the convoluted script because really everything else is done reasonably well. The cinematography's fine, though some people have always disliked Stone's staccato camera style. The music by Ennio Morricone is interesting as always. I mean, we're talking about the guy who did all of Sergio Leone's soundtracks. It's just that the way Stone directed this film, the script, and some bad performances, it all derails what should have been something awesome. Hell, I kinda liked the movie's theme of a man striving to save himself from judgment and damnation. The Coen brothers, for example, have made a science of this dark comedy genre. And this movie is ultimately a dark comedy. It's not supposed to be taken that seriously. But aside from such great scenes as when Penn buys a train ticket from Laurie Metcalf, or whenever he deals with the car repairman, aside from those great scenes, I personally found any comedy that this movie had to be very forced and unfunny. It really felt like Stone was trying to make a Coen Brothers movie and failed. Now, I know I've probably really annoyed fans of U-Turn by claiming this to be one of Stone's worst films, and to be fair, I still have one more Oliver Stone film to see, so I might think that that one is worse than U-Turn. But of all his films that I have seen so far, this one really felt like the weakest one. But there's also a lot of good in this film. Sean Penn is a great actor, and the continued madness of this town drives him to his breaking point. But the film just gets bogged down by the forced humor and the repeated twists in the plot that just get really repetitive and unjustified over time. And I'm saying that I find U-Turn to be one of Stone's worst movies, compared to the ones he had made before, and compared to the ones he made after.